He had been my best friend since childhood. We grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools, shared the same dreams. I trusted him more than anyone else. That's why, when he came to me with what he called the opportunity of a lifetime, I didn't hesitate. "Listen, man," he said, eyes glowing with excitement. "There's this crypto project. Brand new, underground. Only a handful of people know about it. I'm telling you, if we get in now, we'll be millionaires before the year ends." I laughed at first. Sounds too good to be true. But he leaned in, lowering his voice. "I already invested. My money's in. This isn't a joke." That changed everything. He wasn't just pitching some random scam, he was in it himself. Or so he said. I saw him as family, and if he trusted it with his own money, then surely I could too. I went home that night, thought about it for hours, and finally made my decision. I withdrew my savings, every dollar I had managed to scrape together over the last few years, and gave it to him. He grinned, slapped me on the back, and said, "You'll thank me when we're rich." At first, everything seemed fine. He would send me updates, screenshots of supposed returns, charts showing numbers climbing higher and higher. I felt like I had finally made a smart financial move. But then, the messages stopped. I texted him. No reply. I called, straight to voicemail. Days turned into weeks. My excitement slowly turned into unease. Finally, after 2 weeks of silence, I caught him online. "Where's the money?" I asked. "Relax," he replied. "It's all locked for now. Just wait." That was it. No explanation. No reassurance. Just wait. Another month passed. Nothing. I started asking around, and that's when I learned I wasn't the only one. He had approached others, guys from the gym, people he knew from work, even his cousin. All of them had handed over money. All of them were waiting. And then came the night I saw him driving a brand new car. A sleek, black luxury sedan, one he could never afford before. Music blasting, windows down, him laughing like life was perfect. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut. He hadn't invested anything. He had pocketed our money. He had used me, used everyone who trusted him. That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my fists clenched. He thought he had won. But he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. I knew charging at him in anger would do nothing. If I confronted him directly, he'd just deny it, maybe even twist it back on me. No, I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. So I started quietly digging. The first thing I did was talk to the others he scammed. Some were hesitant, embarrassed even, but once I shared my own story, they opened up. One guy had given him nearly $15,000. Another woman, his own co-worker, had handed over her entire emergency fund. The numbers were sickening. We created a private group chat. Everyone posted screenshots, his messages, the so-called investment contracts, the fake charts he sent. I compiled everything into a folder on my laptop. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. But then I realized something even bigger. This wasn't just about money. He had been lying to everyone. He had told me he invested his own savings. To others, he claimed he had exclusive insider contacts. To one woman, he even swore he'd double her money because he cared about her future. Every story was different, but the outcome was the same. He pocketed the cash. Meanwhile, his lifestyle was changing fast. Expensive clothes. Nightclubs every weekend. A new apartment in the city. His Instagram was full of pictures. Bottles of champagne, designer shoes, captions like "Work hard, play harder." Every time I saw one, it burned. But it also fueled me. One night I followed him. I parked a few blocks away and watched as he strutted into a high-end restaurant. He wasn't alone. He was meeting someone. A shady-looking guy in a suit. They shook hands, exchanged envelopes, and laughed. My gut twisted. This was bigger than just a friend turning greedy. He was laundering the money. That was the turning point. I contacted a lawyer. I laid out everything, the victims, the evidence, the trail of lies. The lawyer looked through it carefully, then leaned back in his chair. "You've got him," he said. "This isn't just fraud. It's wire fraud, tax evasion, possibly even money laundering. If we build this case right, he's not just losing the money, he's losing his freedom." Hearing that gave me chills. Freedom. Prison. Suddenly this wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about justice. The lawyer helped us organize all the evidence into a formal complaint. Meanwhile, I kept gathering more. Screenshots, bank transfer records, timestamps of his posts compared to withdrawals from our accounts. Slowly, everything lined up. But I wanted him to feel it. Not just be arrested out of nowhere, I wanted him to know the walls were closing in. So I baited him. I sent a message pretending to be interested in investing more. At first he ignored me. But when I dangled the idea of 10 grand in cash, his greed overpowered his caution. "Let's meet," he texted. Perfect. The lawyer and I coordinated with authorities. They wanted him caught red-handed. The plan was simple. I'd meet him at a cafe, pretend to hand him the money, and as soon as he accepted, the police would move in. The night before, I barely slept. My heart raced with both fear and anticipation. Tomorrow could go wrong in 100 different ways. But if it went right, he'd pay for everything. I thought about all the nights I lay awake, wondering how I'd ever recover my savings. I thought about the other victims, the people who cried in our group chat, ashamed of being fooled. And I thought about him, smiling in his luxury car, acting untouchable. Tomorrow that smile would vanish. The cafe was buzzing with the usual morning crowd when I walked in. My palms were sweaty, but I forced myself to look calm. I had rehearsed this moment 100 times, but now that it was real, every sound seemed amplified. The hiss of the coffee machine, the clink of cups, the low murmur of conversations. And then he walked in. He looked exactly the same, cocky smile, expensive watch glinting under the lights, eyes scanning the room like he owned it. When he spotted me, he gave that fake friendly grin I used to trust. I wanted to spit in his face, but instead I smiled back. "Hey," he said, sliding into the chair across from me. "Glad you came through. I knew you were smarter than the rest of them." The words made my stomach turn. Smarter? He had scammed me just like everyone else. But I kept my poker face. "Yeah," I said, setting a thick envelope on the table. Inside was nothing but blank paper. From the outside it looked like stacks of $100 bills. My fingers itched to push it toward him to end this, but I waited. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You're gonna thank me for this. I got a new deal, short-term, high return. You'll double this in a week, guaranteed." It was almost laughable. He had no shame. No fear. Just endless greed. "Sounds good," I said. My voice was steady, though inside my chest my heart pounded like a drum. He reached for the envelope. And that's when it happened. "Sir, put your hands where we can see them." Four officers in plain clothes surrounded the table. The cafe went silent, people turning in their seats, phones already out to record. My ex-friend froze, his hand still hovering over the envelope. His confident smirk collapsed in an instant. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, jumping to his feet. "You can't." But the officers were faster. They grabbed his arms, twisting them behind his back. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed through the cafe. The look on his face was something I'll never forget. Pure shock, mixed with fear, as if he had never considered this could happen to him. "You're under arrest for fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering," one of the officers said. "You have the right to remain silent." No, this is a mistake." "Tell them," he yelled at me, eyes wild, desperate. But I just sat back in my chair. For the first time in months, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. "I already did," I said. The entire cafe erupted with whispers. Some clapped. Others just stared as the officers dragged him out. The fallout was even bigger than I expected. News outlets picked up the story within days. Local conman arrested after scamming dozens. His social media accounts vanished, seized as evidence. His flashy car was impounded. His apartment, once filled with designer clothes and stolen luxuries, was stripped bare by investigators. But the real satisfaction came when the court case began. We victims sat together in the courtroom, a silent army, as the prosecution laid out every piece of evidence. The group chat screenshots. The bank transfers. Even the video of him yelling at the cashier when he refused to step back in line. Every lie he told was exposed. He tried to defend himself, of course. Claimed he was just helping friends invest. Said he never forced anyone to give him money. But the judge didn't buy it. Neither did the jury. The verdict was swift, guilty on all counts. When the sentence was read, 7 years in prison plus full restitution of stolen money, he finally broke. The same man who strutted around like a king was now trembling, begging, promising he'd pay it all back if they let him go. But it was too late. I'll never forget the moment they led him away, chains rattling around his wrists and ankles. He glanced back at us, his eyes hollow as if he couldn't believe we'd turned the tables. And we had. The aftermath was bittersweet. It took months, but little by little the money was recovered. Not all of it, some was gone forever, but enough to help people rebuild. One of the victims used the return money to pay off her debts. Another finally fixed his broken car. As for me, I put mine in savings, a reminder of the hardest lesson I'd ever learned. Trust is precious and betrayal comes with a price. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was watching justice finally catch up to him. Because the truth is, revenge doesn't always come in fists or shouting matches. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is patience. Waiting. Collecting proof. And then making sure the person who thought they were untouchable faces consequences they can never escape. And as I walked out of that courtroom, I realized something. I wasn't just free from him. I was stronger. And he was just another conman who thought he could outsmart everyone, until he learned the hard way that no one stays untouchable forever.